Hello, everybody, and welcome to Goodnight Productions. My name is Ethan Carpenter, and I'm not dead. But it's definitely not the video I expected to do for my first video back in, what, like 2 or 3 years. I'm going to be doing some audio tutorials, a really basic run-through of Reaper, the audio program Reaper, and how to get set up and then do a little bit of editing when it comes to harsh vocals, death metal vocals. This comes at the request of a member of a vocal Facebook group I'm in called the Kardavox Vocal Community, which is a spawn off the Kardavox Vocal Academy here on YouTube, which I highly recommend if you're interested at all in performing vocals. Very good channel. Mark's a good dude, and the community is absolutely great. I'll put a link to everything in the description. But this is going to be going over Reaper to make sure everything's set up correctly and then do very minor editing. I recorded this. This is my third try recording this. And the first time I recorded, I went on for an hour because I was rambling. But now I know I need to keep it to the basics. So let's hop into Reaper. So ignore my taskbar here at the bottom. I need to do full screen so I know it actually pops up everything I need, because that was something that was the reason I'm re-recording this. So when you first open up Reaper, if you don't buy it, you're going to get a warning thing saying you're evaluating. I swear I will buy your product eventually. I'm going on 4 years and I feel bad. But just bypass that, still evaluating. You're going to open up to this screen. So let's start with how you're setting up. I believe the gentleman I'm doing this for has a Focusrite Scarlett Solo 3rd Gen. Great choice of an interface, by the way. I have an older Focusrite. It's a Focusrite Saffire Pro 26. It's not quite supported on Windows 10 anymore, so it gives me some fits every now and then, but it's been working on me so far tonight. So, basic setups. What you want to go up to options, come down to preferences. This is where you're going to get all of your settings and things like that. There are other things you can do, like different themes. I like default 5.0. It's a pretty nice theme. It's easy on the eyes. Go to preferences. Amongst all of this chaos, you want to go to your audio device tab. Starting from the top to the bottom. Your audio system, it just depends on what works best for you. I tend to switch between Direct Sound, ASIO, and Wasapi. Wasapi is really, really good as long as your interface is newer and your system actually supports it. So I believe such as a 3rd Gen Scarlett will work great, but it's a little finicky with my Sapphire. So right now I'm on Direct Sound. But it doesn't matter much as long as you're getting everything to work. For your input device, you obviously want to use your interface. In my case, Sapphire Audio. I assume if you have the Scarlett, it will say Scarlett Audio. Output device. I'm going to my headphones, so that way my screen capture software that you can see poking out over here actually captures what you're going to be hearing here in a little while. Sample format, I stick to 24-bit, but 16 works great. 32 is awesome as well. 24 is pretty standard. Input channels 2, that's pretty much all you're going to be using if you have a Scarlett Solo. I mean, you can technically set that to 1, but it doesn't matter that much. Sample rate, I stick to either 44.1, which is 44100. Yes. 44100. Or 48,000. I go with 48,000 most of the time. Don't mess with the buffer sampling rate. Now, to actually make sure what your interface can do, you want to go down to your audio bar down here, like where you select your, can't see it, hold on. Where you select your audio here. Right click, go to Open Sound Settings. Move myself back down here. Got your sound settings. You want to go to your input device, have that set to Sapphire Audio, device properties, additional device properties. It's going to open up another window here. You want to go to advanced and make sure you're set to, you can set it as high as you want, but any, 24-bit 48,000 hertz is what I would go for. I mean, mine supports up to 192. Way overkill. Just stick to 24-bit, 48,000 hertz. I will say, though, it's hilarious once you start going really low in quality because it just sounds funny. But you can have exclusive mode. That's why it doesn't really matter what it's set to here for Reaper, but it's good to have that set up. Once you got that done, you're going to hit OK. Basic setup here. To get a new track, you can go up to Insert New Track, or just double-click over here. See, double-clicking, it's fun. Control-Z, obviously, to undo. To make sure you're on for recording, you got right here, as you can see, it's recording me. It's recording absolutely everything I say. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Goodnight Productions. My name is Ethan Carpenter, also known as Will Goodnight, depending on the actual video you watch. Once you stop recording, hit Save All. Disarm. It's recording absolutely everything I say. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Goodnight Productions. My name is Ethan Carpenter, also known as Will Goodnight, depending on the actual video you watch. Something that came up in some of the messages that he was wanting to know is how to monitor yourself in your ears. What you want to do is when you're armed, it's going to sound really funky because I'm recording, so excuse it. Right-click on the actual meter. Go to Monitor Input. It's going to sound a little weird in this video, and it's kind of like a speech jammer because it's really messing with my brain. But that's a good way to hear yourself, make sure you can actually hear your vocals. Now, when it comes to that's really just the basics. You know, put the track down you want to listen to, or you're going to record over, select what you're going to do, growl, scream, sing, whatever you're doing, and then you can go into the editing. Now, for my editing portion of this, I'm going to be using something that I've pre-recorded. Ignore all of this. No. It's the same thing. Okay, whatever. I guess I didn't do it. So, let me get rid of all this schlock first. So, this is a track that I recorded a tryout for a death metal band up in Fort Wayne called Cremated Souls. I highly recommend them. They are pretty good. I didn't get the gig, but it's completely fine. I'm excited for their new vocalist, but I did ask if I could use the tryout I did to, like, make it a little bit easier because I had it pre-recorded. So, this is what it sounded like. I'll just let it play over here for a little bit.
Every cloud of smoke, every dark corner, rise under the crime. Tortured souls await their time. On blood moon, sacrament.
You may think that sounds a little bit over the top, and that's because it kind of is. And I'll go over everything I did, but not exactly how I did it, because I want to show you how to do some editing with Reaper's stock plugins and a couple of free plugins as well. For this, I used Isotope's Nectar 3. It's a great plugin if you can drop $50 on it when it's on sale, but you can do everything on here separately as well. So what I'll do is I'm going to duplicate this track. I'm going to mute that one. I don't need it. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to delete this. And let's just listen to the vocal dry.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
No effects or anything.
Block out the sky. Dark their brains for the spectacle of horror.
Honestly, not horrible, just dry. But obviously, if you're recording something, you want to make it sound nice and fluffy and crunchy and things of the sort. So that's where plugins come in. Little audio editing, a little audio magic. Let me take a drink here. There was a lot of audio magic going on up here. I had EQ, compression, saturation, delay, reverb, a little bit of chorus effect. That's a lot. I'm not going to be doing all of those, but I will be. I'm going to be doing a lot of those. I will say that my dry file in and of itself has some compression going on. because of the gear I'm using. My gear is a Shure SM7B going into a DBX 286S preamp and mic processor. It's a great unit going into the Focusrite Saffire Pro 26, excuse me. So there's some compression baked in, but I always add some more compression later anyway, and I'll explain what all of these are. So here's the primary things that I usually use when mixing: EQ, compression, delay, and sometimes reverb. And sometimes saturation. But that's getting into like some more deep cuts. So we'll just use the basics: EQ, compression, and delay for now. And if you want to know more, I'll be happy to make more. So what we got here, to start doing anything with effects here in Reaper, you go up to this effect button. You can also go down here, but I'm like primarily working up in the rows here. Click on your effects. You've got your effects window. The reason I had to re-record this is because I had Streamlabs OBS set to windowed mode, so it wasn't capturing any of the other windows, because I'm a smart man. Now, I have a lot of plugins. You're going to mainly want to look at VSTs. I've got a lot of plugins, like just a whole lot, just a ton. But I don't want to focus on all of them. I want to focus on Reaper's stock plugins, and then a couple of free ones that I will also show you where and how to download and things of that nature. So the stock plugins that come in Reaper, it's going to look like this when you hop in. Actually, it's going to look a little bit more chaotic because you have the DX plugins and the JS plugins as well. But let's just pretend that this is stock. Once you click on VST, this is what's going to pop up. You've got a lot of interesting things. I have no idea what RiaCast does, in 100% seriousness. Ria Comp, that's going to be the compressor we're going to use. Don't have to worry about that. Ria Delay, that's the delay we're going to use. Ria EQ is great. Ria Fur is really good at noise suppression. That's going to get into more deep cuts, but I'd be glad to go over it. Ria Gate is really good as well. That's going to gate off any noise you have, but it's not needed in this particular situation. Pitch, stream, surround, Ria Tune. It's a tuner. It's a great tuner if you're a guitar player. Or a vocalist. Don't just go in here and go, or you have to actually, D sharp, bro. So, I'm losing my mind. I literally recorded for an hour and I have to redo this. So, what we're going to start off with, in my personal opinion, for vocals is an EQ. This is going to mess with your frequencies. Let's give an extreme example. I don't want to be recording. So let's listen to this and let's just jack up some frequencies. I want to solo it out.
From the corner of your eye, where's their sword? Block out the sky. Toss their burst.
That's what happens when you boost your mid-range too much. So, an EQ. Here's a frequency.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their sword? Blocks out the sky.
It's just affecting your frequency. So, a great way to start with every one of these is a preset, okay? Reaper's presets are great. Now, for metal vocals, I typically go for basic 11-band full vocals. What it's going to be doing here is it's going to be scooping out the extreme lows. You don't need that in vocals. It's giving you a little bit of a bump here as well, giving your vocals a little bit of beef, and then it's given a presence boost up here. It's going to be a little subtle, but let's listen to it. Dry.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Completely dry. Here it's punched in.
Where's their sword?
Off.
Blocks out the sky. Tusker burst with the spectacle of horror.
It gives a little bit more beef, so to say. That's where I usually like to start. You know, and you can do a little bit more. You can maybe like have a little bit more of a presence boost.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Maybe a little bit of mids.
Wizard sword blocks out the sky.
I like it. We'll keep it there. And if you ever come across a setting you really like let's say you really like this, a little bit of edited on a preset, go to the plus menu over here, save preset. You can just go, let's say Ethan bass EQ, you know. There you go. I just saved a new EQ preset for my particular growls in that situation. Secondly, compression. The easiest way to think about compression is it's basically a volume knob. What it's going to be doing is it's going to take your really loud parts and it's going to turn them down. So that way it matches your lower parts, and then you can bring everything up so it's a bit more level. Now, you usually don't want to over compress things. However, with metal vocals, it can really beefen up your sound. So again, it's going to be taking like your really loud screams and your quieter screams, growls, bring them down, and then you can turn it all back up, and it's going to give it a bit more thickness. It's going to make it nice. I really love compression, especially in metal vocals. So again, go to your presets. Let's go to aggressive vocal. So let's go over the controls. Over here, you have your input to the plugin. So here's what the plugin is seeing.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Power and sacrament.
Yeah, so the green is what the plugin is seeing. Then you got your threshold. Once your audio, I keep using a pen as a pointer and it's not working. Once your audio goes above this threshold, that's when the compressor kicks in. Anything above that is going to be turned down by a certain amount. The amount it gets turned down by is determined by these things, parameters. Your ratio is how much it's turning down. So a 4-to-1 ratio means that for every 4 dB that your vocal goes above, it's only going to allow the actual signal to go up by 1. A 4-to-1 ratio. There is a more aggressive version of compression called limiting, which I actually really like when it comes to this style of vocal. So a limiter, usually once you hit about 9-to-1 and up, that it's just not going to let anything through and it's going to really clamp down. But let's see how the mix sounds. I'm going to do some level matching because you always want to level match with a compressor. Louder doesn't necessarily always mean better.
Sacrament. Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword blocks out the sky. Tusker bursts with the spectacle of horror. No capacity of power.
Actually, auto makeup.
Capacity of power.
Really, really, really loud. Never mind. Let's turn it down.
Capacity of power.
You don't want your vocal to clip. Once it hits red up here, that means your vocal is clipping. Example.
Capacity of power.
It's going to sound really nasty, and actually I pushed it too hard, and it Reaper automatically cut it off. So, I would like
Black shadows.
So you got some heavy compression going on.
Blocks out the sky.
And you can really crank down on it.
With the spectacle of horror. No escape. No capacity.
There you go. So I really like a super heavy compression on a vocal. So let's...
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Now we can auto make up.
Wizard sword.
Kind of.
Blocks out the sky. Tusker bursts.
Now the only problem with this is it's really catching my breaths, but...
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
But I think it sounds a little bit, more full. Let's hear it in a mix.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Really handy thing in Reaper, you can go to this power button next to the effects or on top of the effects button, and you can turn everything off and on at will.
Black shadows
so this is with it.
From the corner of your eye.
Disabled.
Where's their third? Block out the sky. Dusker burns. Well, the spectacle of horror.
So hopefully you can hear it too. I think with the compression and EQ, it sounds a little bit more polished. Now, something with compression, what we did with the EQ, we carved out some frequencies and we boosted some others. But with compression, you're bringing everything back again. So what I like to do is, I like to actually copy my EQ. I like to paste it. Bring it down. You can drag and drop these in any order. Bring it down so that way you reinforce that EQ curve.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their third? Block out the sky.
And since you don't have to do the same EQ, you can even do have clear vocals instead.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their third? Block out the sky.
I actually like that.
Dusker burns. Well, the spectacle of horror.
Cool. I like that. Mix and match some EQ. It's doing some similar things, but it's doing some other things differently. I like that. That's like your baseline compression in EQ. Once you have stuff compressed in EQ, EQ'd and compressed rather, you can start doing some fun stuff with time-based effects. And one of my favorite things to do that with is delay, especially for vocals. Some people really like reverb, which I will touch here in a little bit, but for death metal vocals especially, I prefer delay. So here's what delay sounds like when I don't have anything set up. It's going to sound horrible.
Black shadow from the corner of your eye. Where's their third? Where's their third?
Actually,
black shadow.
I got confused because it kept going. Actually, I don't even know that.
Black shadow from the corner of your eye.
Yeah, it sounds bad. So, preset time, dude. When you're first starting out, presets are great. Few things that I like on this if you're going to go presets. Vocal slapback is cool. Basic 5-tap ping pong is as well, but if you're going to use that, you want to make sure that your tempo is lined up in Reaper, which you need to set before you drag any tracks in. Because if I do it now, it's going to mess with all the files. So if you're doing a cover, let's say you're covering Cattle Decapitation song, you want to go look up the BPM and line it up so that way things like basic 5-tap ping pong matches up. But I'll show it in a little bit anyway because it's not too horrible. Vocal fattener is my favorite. But let's go down the list. Vocal slapback. Here's how it sounds soloed.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their third?
Turning it off.
Block out the sky. Dusker burns.
It adds just a little bit of delay, and it really thickens things up, but not as much as the vocal fattener, which I'll do in a second. But let's hear the vocal slapback in a mix.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their third?
Turning it off.
Block out the sky. Dusker burns.
It just adds a little bit more cream to it. It sounds really, really nice, which is just, I love delay on vocals. Let's go to the vocal fattener. It's soloed.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Hold on. Let me actually turn it on first.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
It's a little bit wider. It has, instead of one delay, check here, you have your 2 different delay times. Your vocal slapback's only got 1. It's directly in the center with your vocal. With the vocal fattener, you've got 2, and they're kind of panned a little bit. So if you're listening on headphones, you might be able to hear it. So here's vocal slapback.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Vocal fattener.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Another great way to hear this is you have your wet and dry controls here. Your wet is your affected signal. If I boost this, that delay is going to be really, really loud. So I'm actually going to affect the dry signal, which is the bass signal. So here's the vocal slapback, but I'm going to take away all of the dry signal.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
You hear how the wet signal is a little bit, it's interesting sounding.
Block out the sky.
That's because of the high pass and low pass filters. You don't have to mess with those. But
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
that's the delay.
Wizard sword.
Now with the vocal fattener, you're going to hear it a lot more.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
See?
Wizard sword. Block out the sky.
Let's hear the vocal fattener in a mix.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword.
Now, if you think that's a little bit too much, you can bring down the wet signal a little bit.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword. Block out the sky.
You just want to give it a little bit of a boost. You don't want to overwhelm the audio like I'm about to do. Basic 5-tap ping pong. Here's how it sounds.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword. Block out the sky.
Beautiful, isn't it? Bring down the wet control and actually hear it in a mix.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword.
It's a bit too much. It's a bit too much. And you can edit things like the timing and things like that, but it's if you're gonna use the stock, just go with the vocal fattener. It's good. Now, the one that is a little bit iffier with death metal vocals is Reverb. I usually like using Reverb as a glue for everything, but that's going to be that's a bit of a heavier topic. So I rarely use a reverb on my vocal track itself, but let's take a look. Not this one. I still don't understand. You want to go for the reverberate, not the reverb. Now, what a reverb does, a delay is very simple. A reverb, imagine a delay on crack, because the delays turn into a reverberation. It's going to make it sound like a room. What I did in my first try was just the Mix Alive plugin. Let's hear it soloed. Actually, let's take out the delay.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Take out the dry signal. So it's just a little bit of a room now.
Well, the spectacle of horror. No escape.
Let's bump the room size.
No copy.
Just so you can hear it. There you go. Sounds like it's in a bigger space now.
Wizard sword. Block out the sky.
If you're gonna use reverb on death metal vocals, keep it short, and then you want to have a little bit of an initial delay. This is gonna let your vocal play slightly before the reverb activates, and it's gonna make it so it doesn't cloud up your mix. Reverb really starts clouding things up with vocals, but delay going into reverb sounds really, really cool.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword. Block out the sky.
It gives you a lot more room, a lot more ambience. Let's hear it in a mix.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword.
But it sounds a little bit more over the top. So let's drop down the wet on the delay a little bit. Drop down the wet. Well, that was the reverb. Let's drop that a little.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword.
I like it.
The sky.
Bypassing everything.
Doctor Burns. For the spectacle of horror.
It's gross. It's really dry. It doesn't fit at all. Now,
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Wizard sword.
I think that sounds awesome. I'm not going to record for an hour this time, I promise. So I'm going to go really quick for my suggestions on you know, when it comes to when you're just starting out, these 5 plugins are going to do you well. The RIA EQ, well, it's 4 plugins. Sorry, I used EQ twice. RIA EQ, RIA Comp, RIA Delay, RIA Reverberate. Those 4 are going to help you a lot. But there are some free options that I feel do even more good. So, here's something that I recommend a lot. VST, I'm just going to look. It's called the W1 Limiter by George Young. This is very similar to a compressor. Bypass all of these. Very similar to this, but it's a lot easier to use. It's a clone of a Waves plugin. Waves are awesome, but they can be expensive. Really, really simple controls. This is my Sweetwater card. Just pointing with everything. Your ceiling is where it's going to cap out the signal. I like to bring this down quite a bit. So like -3, -4. Your threshold is the same thing over here, but with a limiter, it's going to really crush down and it's going to add some girth. So I'm just going to let you listen while I crank the compressor.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their third? Block out the sky. Dusker burst with the spectacle of horror.
Really aggressive, and it really brings out the shine in the vocals. Let's use that instead of the compressor and hear how this sounds.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their third?
You obviously want to volume match. Louder isn't always better.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
Swapping between the limiter and the compressor.
Where's their third? Block out the sky. Dusker burst with the spectacle of horror.
I love the W1 limiter. What you want to do to find that is literally just Google George Young's W1 limiter 2.0. It's a free download, and I'll actually show you how to install a plugin right now. Well, here in a second. The other thing that you can look at is something called saturation, which think of it as distortion. There's a plugin company called Variety of Sound, and they have some great stuff, but I want to look at Ferric TDS. Very similar. This is more of a bus compressor, but it's got some saturation built in. Take a look.
Black shadows from the corner of your
Saturation
eye.
is the drive.
Where's their third? Block out the sky. Dusker burst.
Gonna have some compression as well, but let's boost the input.
No escape. No capacity of power.
Hear this in the context of mix.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their third? Block out the sky.
Adds a little bit of girth. Let's see it in context with everything else.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye.
A little bit loud.
Where's their third? Block out the sky. Dusker burst with the spectacle of horror. No escape.
I think it sounds great. Let me show you how to actually download something like Ferric TDS or the W1 limiter. I'll take you to the W1 limiter site. Google W1 limiter. It's on yong.com. I'll link it in the description. You just download whatever operating system you're using. Great stuff. I don't know what all he he has a few things. Look at that. Yadif deinterlace for Sony Vegas? I have no idea. I'm kind of interested in some of these though. Proves headphone listening. That's interesting. I'm not. Maybe I'll do a review on it. You got the W1 limiter. Bring it up. These are your plug-ins. Once you have those extracted, what you want to do, most plugins are in your C drive, program files, VST plugins. You can slap them in there. Once you slap those in there properly, go to preferences, Want to go down to VST in your plugins section. You want to make sure the folder that you add them to is selected. So you could have them somewhere else if you'd like. You just want to make sure that that is added, and you rescan so the plugins will be seen. Now, I don't have any new plugins, but let's experiment. So, here's another great website, Plugin Boutique. You can get a lot of really cool free stuff. So let's say you want to get a cool delay. So here, go by popularity. Latency delay, snap pin. That looks monstrous. I'll pass. I want something that I don't have, obviously. Which I think I have all of these. Here we go. Let's go for Verberate Basic 2. These are all your free plugins. This is the one I downloaded in my last recording. Use Facebook. I use 64-bit, so we'll install in 64-bit. Don't need AAX. That's for Pro Tools. If you're using Pro Tools, have that selected. That's finished. And it should go in, it should have went into the folder that I noticed. So I'm going to go back, Preferences, VST, rescan. There you go. It found the plugin. I would go to New. Uh-oh. Oh, it's because I have a variety. Here we go. Acon Digital Reverberate Basic. Let's see how it sounds. Yeah, I just want to hear the reverberation. Okay, so this is actually a meant to be used as a effects bus, but just got to turn it down a little bit.
Black shadows from the corner of your eye. Where's their third? Block out the sky.
I actually really like that reverb. I'm glad I downloaded it. So Plugin Boutique is a great way to find some more plugins as well, especially for paid ones as well, as if you want to do that. Because in my original thing, I used Neutron or Nectar 3. It's definitely some cool stuff. Also, to the gentleman I made this for originally, since you bought a since you got a Focusrite, it comes with a bunch of free plugins. So if you don't know how to do those, let me know and I can show you. It comes with, if I can remember them off the top of my head, it comes with not Acusonus. It comes with your Focusrite plugins. It comes with all of these. They can be a little bit of a pain to actually use, but it does come with those. Also comes with Softtube plugins. And the Softtube plugins I love. I love this reverb, and I love the saturation knob. The tube delay is pretty cool too. So if you buy a Focusrite product, be sure to actually get your plugins. I didn't until like I moved. But that's it, guys. So that's just kind of like some basic stuff about Reaper. I almost recorded the exact same amount of time that I did last time, but I'm not rambling nearly as much. So if you guys want to see some more on terms of like mixing vocals, recording vocals, vocal tips, anything to do with Reaper, I can pretty much hit that up. I'm going to start doing some reviews on the channel soon. Let me show you guys something. Shade Frost, you might remember him from my first review here on the channel of the Maximum Ride movie. Bought a budget USB microphone, and he let me borrow it because he has my Blue Yeti Pro. I'm going to come back for that Shade at some point. I'm going to review that, but I got to wait until all this quarantine's over because I have a buddy, one of my former bandmates from Fleshbore, Cole Chavez, is going to help me out with some guitar recordings for that. I'm going to start doing more gear reviews, and I'm really working on doing more of the comedy reviews, the Goodnight Good Luck series. I finished recording everything of Matrix Path of Neo, and I have some ideas for that video. If you have any questions on anything audio related, I'll see if I can help. Thank you guys for tuning in to Goodnight Productions. My name is is Ethan Carpenter. Check out the Kardavox Vocal Academy here on YouTube, and check out the Kardavox Vocal Community on Facebook. I'll be sure to try and link all of those in the description below. Anyway, I will see you guys next time.